Let's talk about how H.H. Holmes built a whole murder castle to kill people in. Using stolen money, he bought an empty lot in the Englewood neighborhood of Chicago. There he built a labyrinth of soundproof rooms, secret passages, and maze-like hallways and staircases. Some rooms allegedly had trapdoors where Holmes could drop victims into the basement. The basement was said to have acid vats, pits of quicklime which is used on decaying corpses, and a crematorium. Holmes claimed to have killed more than 200 people in his murder castle, but experts now believe that number was way lower. He was hanged in Philadelphia in 1896, and the only building that still exists on this plot of land is the Englewood Post Office.
This, my friends, is Jack the Ripper. Click the plus, drop a like, tag a friend, save yourself. So Jack the Ripper is one of the most notorious serial killers. Spanning back to 1888, he terrorized the streets of London for 12 weeks. Only really going after prostitutes. Stop working that corner, man. It ain't worth it. And still to this day is only known to have 5 victims, but they say there's many more. One thing that all the murders had in common were slit throats and mutilated abdomens. And it was also speculated that he could have been a doctor because all of their organs were removed. To this day, his original identity has never been known, and Jack is still at large, so be careful.
Hold on just a second. Jack the Ripper might have been H.H. Holmes? I've never heard of this theory before. Look, any true crime junkie knows H.H. Holmes was like one of the first American serial killers. He was alive in the late 1800s. His crimes primarily occurred in Chicago. 9 confirmed victims, confessed to 27, but suspected to have killed 200 people. He bought this big building where he did horrible things to people, like horrible, unspeakable things to people. Eventually, they caught the guy. In 2017, the History Channel aired a special series called American Ripper, and they tried to provide clues to suggest that he was also Jack the Ripper, but here's why I don't think it's actually true. Although they were both alive at the same time, travel was really hard in the late 1800s, and I don't think it's possible to commit crimes at the same time.
Serial Killer Quotes, Part 3, Eileen Wernos. If you can't be a good example, be a horrible warning. I am a serial killer. I would kill again. To me, the world is nothing but evil, and my own evil just happened to come out because of the circumstances of what I was doing. People always look down their noses at hookers, never give you a chance because they think you took the easy way out. When no one would imagine the willpower it took to do what we do, walking the streets night after night, taking the hits and still getting back up. And I do have to say one thing, their families must realize that no matter how much they love these people that died, no matter how much they love them, they were bad people because they were going to hurt me. Dead men don't rape. They say it's the number of people I killed. I say it's the principle. Thanks a lot, society, for railroading my ass. And lastly, it shouldn't matter who you are or what your workplace is. Self-defense is self-defense. No one has the right to lay any physical abuse on anyone.
Believe it or not, a serial killer was arrested in Brooklyn last week.
And today on Serial Killer TikTok, there was a freaking serial killer arrested in Brooklyn last week. So, here's what you should know. Victim count, 3. Supposedly because they owed him money. He lived in the same building as his victims. The first murder happened in 2015. All 3 victims were elderly women, between the ages of 78 and 83. Here's the catch. Charges were pending against him on Thursday, and on Friday, he killed again. Not only did he live in the same building, he lived on the same floor as 2 of his victims. The most recent victim, Juanita Caballero, who was 78, was found with a telephone cord wrapped around her neck when her son went to visit. Apparently, he intimidated a lot of the tenants. However, he was a handyman. He was always fixing things, always seen with his tools.
Hi, I'm Cam, and this group of friends thought they were opening a suitcase full of cash, but it ended up being anyone's worst nightmare. On August 19th, 2020, a group of teens went randonauting on a West Seattle beach. They stumbled upon a black suitcase. Immediately, they smelled the most putrid odor. They opened the suitcase and saw that something was wrapped in a black garbage bag. They decided to call the police. What the teens found turned out to be the bodies of 35-year-old Jessica Lewis and 27-year-old Austin Wenner. Autopsies revealed that Jessica had been shot multiple times, and Austin had suffered a single gunshot to the torso. They had both been beaten and dismembered to fit in the suitcases. The couple, who had been together for 8 years, had been killed 2 months prior to their discovery. The killer, 62-year-old Michael Lee Doodley, their landlord. On June 9th, Michael let another woman move into Jessica and Austin's apartment. When she entered, there was heaps of clothing everywhere. Under a pile, she saw the figure of a person and a bloody hand sticking out. She made a joke out of fear and Michael laughed. Michael told authorities that the victims hadn't paid $1,500 for rent. He also has a restraining order from his own daughter because he sexually assaulted her.
Stupid ways that serial killers were found out. Part 3. This is Jeffrey Dahmer. Without going too deep, he killed 17 men between 1978 and 1991. He was a necrophile. He was a cannibal. Just all over bad guy. One of Dahmer's lures was that he was a photographer and he was doing nude photography. He gets this guy there, Tracy Edwards, and after he finally gets him naked and handcuffed, he tells him, "I'm going to kill you and eat your heart." Tracy, cool as ice, doesn't lose his cool, and it kind of confuses Jeffrey Dahmer. In fact, at one point, I believe Tracy said that he was talking to the TV. After a little while, Tracy actually asks to go to the bathroom, and Dahmer lets him do it. Immediately, Tracy punches him in the face and runs out of the apartment. They flag down the police, bring the police back, and that's where they find heads in the freezer and lots of pictures of victims.
Warning, guys, this one is going to be tough to hear. On January 13th, 2021, 34-year-old Brittany Cormier and her friend and neighbor, 37-year-old Hope Nettleton, were shot and killed in Brittany's home in southern Louisiana. These two men, 22-year-old Dalvin Wilson and 25-year-old Andrew Eskine, were arrested for the crime. As it turns out, Brittany's own brother, 34-year-old Beau Cormier, had ordered the hit. Why would he do such a thing, you ask? Well, he had raped Brittany's daughter. Remember, Brittany is his sister, so in other words, he raped his own niece. In order to save his skin, he ordered a hit on his own niece so she couldn't testify against him. The most heart-wrenching part of the story is that when these two got to the house, they asked for the little girl by name. The mother, knowing exactly what was about to happen, stepped in and claimed to be the daughter, while the daughter herself actually hid in a closet. The two men then killed Brittany and Hope.
Hi, I'm Cam, and this innocent family was killed in a revenge plot gone wrong. 5 members of the Diol family, including their 2-year-old daughter and infant daughter, were killed in a fire on August 5th, 2020. The Diol family had immigrated from Senegal to Denver to become citizens and, quote, live out the American dream. According to authorities, 3 teenage boys set fire to the Diol family house, allegedly with intention of killing those who were inside. The teens were apparently retaliating for a drug deal gone wrong. This image was captured from someone's security footage. However, the teenagers had the wrong house, killing an innocent family because of it. 16-year-old Gavin Seymour and Kevin Bowie were arrested 6 months after the murders and are being charged as adults. Police are working on the 15-year-old suspect being charged as an adult as well. They face 60 felony charges that include multiple counts of murder, arson, burglary, and conspiracy. The 15-year-old faces 47 counts. The remains of the Diol family house were torn down the same day the teens were charged. Screenshots were taken of Kevin Bowie's Instagram and someone commented, "How do you live with yourself?" His caption reads, "Let's see who's next on my homie list," with a devil emoji and casket emoji.
Serial Killer Survivors, Part 1. Yeah, you know him. This is the Night Stalker. This is Anastasia Ronner, and if you watch the Netflix documentary, you'll know that she was abducted at 6 years old and taken to Ramirez's house, where he sexually assaulted her for multiple hours. He would then drop her off at a gas station, and this 6-year-old little girl was such a badass that she offered to testify against him so that he wouldn't be able to hurt any other little kids. This is Maria Hernandez, and when she got to her house one night, Ramirez had already killed her roommate. He liked to wait and look for people's fear in their eyes, so when she drove up, he walked up and banged on the top of her car and waited for her to look at him. When she turned and looked, he pulled the gun on her and she put her hands up. He went to shoot her, and the keys in her hand actually deflected the bullet. She assumed he would leave after killing both of them, and she went to walk in the house at the front door, and there was Ramirez. Hernandez looked at him and said, "You already shot me. What are you going to do?" He stopped, turned, and walked away. Serial Killer Survivors. This is Corazon Amora. Her attacker was this guy, Richard Speck, and he would systematically break into her home and kill 8 of her roommates, raping, stabbing, and torturing them. Corazon initially hid under a bed and waited for hours as he went from room to room killing her friends. Speck later said that he actually had lost track of how many women were in the house, and during that time period, Corazon would sneak away and run for help. She was invaluable to catching him because she provided a detailed sketch of the suspect, including the details about a Born to Raise Hell tattoo that he had, and she would testify on him later in court. Speck would continue spiraling downward, drinking and attacking people, as well as trying to commit suicide. His roommate would take him to Cook County Hospital, and while he was there receiving an emergency procedure to save his life, they would see the Born to Raise Hell tattoo on his forearm and turn him in. This is Corazon walking in like a boss on the day of the trial. Oh look, it's more Zodiac Killer news. This is Faikal Zarawi, and he's a French engineer who has the entire serial killer community in a tizzy because he says that he has cracked the last 2 Zodiac killer ciphers. If you're new to serial killers or just this channel, the Zodiac is a serial killer who has never been found, and he's presumed to be dead by now. He operated in Northern California in the late 60s and early 70s and killed 5 different people, but he specifically targeted couples. And 2 of the men whom he attacked actually survived. He once claimed to have killed over 30 people, but that's completely unconfirmed. Now, it wasn't exactly crazy for there to be serial killers in the 60s and 70s in California. What created sort of this fervor and national attention were the letters that he was mailing to local newspapers. Those letters sent on August 1st, he demanded that they be put on the front page of the local newspapers or he would kill again. And it was actually cracked a week later by Donald and Betty June Harden, a couple. That cipher is referred to as Z408, and that's the one that has the quote about wanting to hunt man and man being the dangerous game. The Z340 cipher wasn't cracked until December 5th, 2020, 51 years after it was mailed. And because the cops had said they weren't sure that the letters were coming from the Zodiac, this time he sent the blood-stained shirt of one of the victims to prove that it was him. Bringing us back to Zarawi, who says that he has now cracked Z13 and Z32, the last 2 ciphers that have not been able to be cracked for the last 51 years. Zarawi says that after the December 5th ciphers were released, he got super interested in the cases and he spent the last 6 months focused on figuring them out. The team of men in December who cracked the Z340 released a public domain encryption key so that everyone could see their work. Z13 and Z32 are significantly smaller ciphers, which make it harder for people to figure out the pattern of letters that he's using. So Zarawi took the encryption key from Z340 and he applied it to Z32, which is this one right here. He said he got a bunch of random jumbled letters, but it took him a couple weeks until he came out with the phrase Labor Day find 45.069 north, 58.719 west. The context being that that location was where he was going to put a bomb and harm a bus full of children. Then Zarawi did the same thing with Z13, and that's the most important one because in Z13 he says his name. Zarawi thinks that he got the letters K-A-Y-R, which means that the killer was actually Lawrence K. Since releasing this information a couple days ago, nobody's happy about it. Yeah, but that's where we are. Maybe we have the answer?
Recently Solved Mysteries, Episode 5, The Massacre at Sea video. This account posts true crime and horror content, meaning that the videos are explicit. Its topics can be triggering for some people, so viewer discretion is strongly advised. In August 2014, a disturbing video titled Fishing Vessel Fijian Crew Getting Shot Outside Fiji Waters was uploaded to YouTube. Dubbed The Massacre at Sea on the internet, the person who uploaded the video claimed that it was found on the phone in the back of a taxi in Fiji, a country in Southeast Pacific Oceania. The 10-minute video, which cannot be fully shown here due to its graphic content, was filmed on the deck of a boat that appeared to be heading towards some wreckage, with 3 other ships tailing behind. The wreckage appears to be a small boat, with 5 survivors clinging onto it to stay afloat. Unfortunately, the 4 large ships surround and seemingly circle the wreckage and the 5 men, and according to one of the ship's intercoms, ordered them to be murdered. One by one, using rifles, the survivors are picked off by the crewmen on the ship. Once all 5 are dead, the crew celebrate by taking selfies. The massacre at sea was taken to the Fijian government for investigation, and they immediately pointed out a few important clues. For one, the location of the crimes was at huge conflict. Languages spoken in the footage were Mandarin Chinese, Cantonese, Thai, and Vietnamese, and not Fijian, suggesting that the incident took place somewhere in Southeast Asia. However, the 5 that were shot and killed determined to have heavy Arabic or East African origin, which also suggested that it took place in the Arabian Sea or the Indian Ocean. Despite this location conflict, one other clue was this ship, identified as a Chun I-217. The ship was a Taiwanese flag tuna longliner, and authorities went straight to questioning the captain of that ship. Chinese Captain Wang Fengyu of the longliner that he calls the Pink Shin 101, when asked, refused to say anything. Immediately, Wang became a suspect over the killings, and an arrest warrant was issued on him in 2018. Sadly, due to how unrestrained international waters are, he was able to roam free around the world, and it seemed like he would never be caught. With Wang on the loose, investigators began to focus on the crewmen who appeared to be murdering the victims. Through maritime databases, they were able to track down who Wang's crewmen were and their social media, so they made contact with 2 crewmen named Aldrin and Maximo. Through interviews, Aldrin and Maximo confessed more evidence against Wang. Firstly, the location of the killings took place in the Indian Ocean, between the countries of Somalia and Seychelles. Second was how it happened. In 2012, the Pink Shin 101 was tuna fishing with 3 other large ships when one of them got attacked by unarmed pirates. In return, one ship rammed and capsized the pirates' boat. Then, Wang ordered the survivors to be killed. The witnesses said that the victims probably weren't even pirates. They didn't have any guns, only fishing equipment on their boat, Maximo said. It was wrong, people getting shot, but there was nothing I could do about it. In 2020, 2 years after his arrest warrant, Wang docked in Kaohsiung Port in Taiwan, where he was arrested and prosecuted. Finally, on January 29, 2021, the captain was sentenced to 26 years in jail for homicide and illegal possessions of firearms.
I want to open a restaurant called Food to Die For, where everything on the menu is a serial killer's last meal.
Love it.
Like, everything on the menu is named after a serial killer. And say you order Ted Bundy, then you
get
get
nothing?
a medium rare steak, a toast, over easy eggs.
Yeah, he
hash
still got
browns,
it, but he
coffee,
actually
juice,
skipped the
and
meal.
milk. So, like all the serial killers who were executed, the things that we serve at the restaurant will be their last meal. And like I've already mentioned, it's called Food to Die
I
For.
love it. Let's do it.
Also, if I was being executed, my last meal would definitely be chicken
Tortellini.
waffles.